Tune in, tone up. Your one-stop shop for guitar tricks, tips, techniques and advice. With me, Gary Shilliday, and my own excellent teacher, Dan Davis. In Guitar Lesson 35, we address a question given to us on our Facebook account about how you can increase the speed and fluidity of your playing. Dan first draws out some ideas which can increase the interest in your rhythm playing, including fills and flourishes. We then do some improvising over a jazz fusion track, looking at how you can improve the fluidity and form of your licks and phrases, and polish what you're already good at. Awesome, Dan. The way you're moving up and down the fretboard and everything like that, you know, it's so confident. You're hitting every note and there's tapping and all the different techniques and everything like that. Any ideas on how you can possibly build up such good fretboard fluidity?
No, I haven't got a clue. Must have been my doppelganger.
I mean, it's like speed and like knowing the fretboard is so important, knowing all the different intervals, the different notes and everything like that. Making sure that you're not hitting the wrong notes, although I suppose in some ways there's, you know, no such thing as a wrong note if you can bend or slide or whatever, but you know, being confident and hitting the right things when you're shredding.
That's right. We're having a bit of fun, to be honest with you, with the shred, because it harks back to a message that came through our Facebook account yesterday, which was quite interesting. It was from our good friend Carlos, who we've spoken to on a few occasions now, and he was referring to speed and fluidity. Now, I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have a little rip at the beginning just to see what happens. But speed and fluidity, it's something that I get asked about as a guitar teacher an awful lot. And I remember, you know, when I was starting out and trying to get things together, and still here we are at 45 years old trying to get things together. And getting things more smooth, more fluid, more so it trips off your fingers like you meant that to happen, rather than the odd happy accident. It's a big deal, and it's not just about the shredding. It's for blues licks, country licks, for clean passages like clean solos and chord work. It's a big deal to get that kind of professional sheen.
Yeah.
I used to work for a guy, I don't know if he's listening, he's probably not. His name was Mark Landon, and I used to do some session work for him.
Right, okay.
He was based in Hove, and used to do quite a lot of session work and the odd gig for him and that sort of thing when he was recording his original material. And his manager could also play guitar, guy who was sort of managing him and the band. But he used to say to me, you know, what Del, the manager, could do on an instrument. You know, he would take like half a day or a day to do it. And he said, you'll come in and you'll rip through it in an hour and a half and you're gone.
Yeah.
Pay me money. Thank you very much. I'm off for a cup of coffee. See you later. And sometimes it's that hit the ground running aspect. Playing the guitar where you pick the thing up and it's instant.
Yep.
Much as you are better once you've got into the swing of it, much you are better when you've played a few exercises or whatever, or played a few numbers if you're with a live band. It's that ability to still deliver the wow factor right off the bat.
Yeah.
And not just the wow factor, but that sort of, I'm not necessarily thinking about it. It's an involuntary response. This chord changing or picking or scales and soloing. Do you see where I'm coming from? Sorry, I've whittled on there.
No, that's cool. Reminds me of something, I can't remember who it was who said it, but he said you've got to learn everything, learn all the techniques, learn all the scales, and then you've got to forget it. And then you've got to pick up the guitar again and start playing. that kind of naturalness that you're looking for.
It's difficult because, I mean, you always have those gigs, those moments, the odd solo where you just like, yeah, nailed that. That was cool. But when you're starting out, sometimes it seems it's a case of it needs to be on the right day with the wind in the right direction, when I'm wearing the right coloured socks and I've got out the right side of bed and I've got just the perfect tone on my guitar, and then I can play that solo. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's too many ifs and buts as to whether you can actually pull this damn thing off in the first place.
Yeah.
Whereas when you nailed some of these things, you can always do it. It's just sometimes it's a better win. You've played it better one time maybe than a whole bunch of other times, or you've done a lick that you're thinking, that was quite nice,
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about fluidity. Is this something you find difficult?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say that, it's something you're kind of always working at. I've put a lot of effort into learning the notes on the fretboard.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend to Carlos and anyone out there as well, early on. Well, there's a few things that listening to a lot of other musicians on other podcasts and stuff that I would definitely recommend early on. Some ear training, maybe singing, try and sing solos before you play them, which you've talked about to me before as well. But also, getting some programs or apps or something and learning the fretboard, testing yourself and learning it has got to be advantageous.
It definitely helps. I mean, guitar is a journey. You sent me that little thing on Facebook yesterday, and it was about this kind of 4 distinct stages of learning the guitar, and it was absolutely fascinating how it goes from you're kind of incompetent, but you're learning. And so I've said this to people myself. When you're starting out, if you learn one chord and then a mate teaches you another chord, well, you know double what you knew yesterday, don't you?
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling. The learning curve is quite exciting when you first play. But then when you start to look at other players, you realise how far you've got to go.
Yeah.
You
start to realise how much there is to learn, don't you? And
that's right. And
that carries on.
And they were saying in this little thing, this article, that's often the point where some people kind of give up, is where they're just getting stuff under their fingers, but they just feel like it's too much of a mountain to climb. And actually, it's just the point that you should keep going. Yeah. So let's look at our subject that we've got. Maybe let's divide it up. How do you feel about that?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
So much as I shredded at the beginning, and I really hope that people who hate shredding, it hasn't alienated them. They're like, I hate this guitar playing. I'm listening to a different podcast. So I'm hoping it hasn't done that to them. Because it was just meant as a bit of fun at the beginning, when we're doing something on fluidity and speed. But I don't want you to think that I'm here to turn you or anyone else out there into, the next Angelo Battio or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yeah, because speed isn't always everything, is it?
No.
Fluidity to me, speed is one aspect of it, but fluidity to me is like it's a confidence thing maybe and a knowledge of the fretboard.
Knowledge of the fretboard definitely helps. It takes the edge off it, and it means that you don't get lost. But it doesn't guarantee that you're going to play great notes.
No, that's
true. And it
true,
doesn't guarantee you're going to play great phrases. It means that nothing you play should sound terrible if you're in key. So there's hope there. But at the same time, learning great phrases and things like that, that's the work of a lifetime, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the lick library, so to speak.
Do you think any great guitar player out there has ever been sitting on his deathbed thinking, well, nailed that.
Done it.
Yeah, I'm not telling anyone else either. They'll have to go on the same journey. At the end of the day, guitar, like anything that you really get into, is an endless cavalcade of learning. And that's kind of the great thing about it. That's why my guitar teacher in my team said it's the best toy he ever bought. Because it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's the thing that never completely and utterly gets to the point where you go, I've nailed it, I know everything. You just can't possibly.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
So are we going to get a few licks today then?
No.
Yeah,
of course you are.
Yay! Yeah.
Sorry, wind-up mode. Been teaching all day. So what I want to do first is maybe let's look at some chords.
Yeah.
So I want to look at fluidity when we're maybe playing a rhythm part.
Yeah, okay.
So we've talked about rhythm a lot lately. We did the Eddie Van Halen rhythm one, which is coming out soon. But I think it's valid.
It feels like the tip of the iceberg to me as well. Rhythm.
Yeah, I think this one's going to, this is going to run and run.
Yeah.
So let's get some chords. I want chords you're happy with.
Yeah.
So I want you to give me some chords, maybe not necessarily adult chords as we call them.
Yeah.
But maybe some bar chords. Give me maybe 4 chords that you're happy to play. And I want you to arrange them in some kind of rhythm. And we're going to dissect your fluidity of changing between them.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to have 4 chords.
Okay, now how did you feel about that? So you got A, which is bar chord on the 5th.
Yeah. Up to
F sharp minor.
Yeah.
Bar chorded on the 9th, the A minor shape. B minor on the 7th fret.
Yeah.
And D, a bar chord on the 5th.
Yeah.
Again.
A little bit twee, actually. A little bit twee sounding.
A little bit twee, but let's park that one for the moment and think of like how confident you were playing through the rhythm. Because I'll put you on the spot, and I did that on purpose.
Yeah, okay.
Because, if you played something that you played a million times before, well, that's no test, is it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So how did you feel in terms of your confidence levels? Say someone gave you a chord sheet and said, right, you're going to be performing this just in a couple of minutes. It's really easy. It's 4 chords. Here they are. And the band's counting you in 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to sort of pluck a rhythm out of nowhere, I guess.
Okay.
So that's the first kind of point. So I just went with this kind of dang, 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 and then I thought I wanted to make it a little bit more complicated than that. So I added the diddling, dang, 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 dang.
Okay.
Diddling, dang. So, but it's still quite a simplistic kind of rhythm, really.
Okay.
So I would have liked it for it to have had something a bit more stand out.
What would you say was the most awkward thing about it from the point of view of keeping it fluid and up to the right tempo?
Probably the 16th note.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
Now, it sounded a bit clunky.
It sort of messed up your rhythm a little bit.
Right.
So here's the first tip. As you know, I love motorcycles.
Yep.
And I love my motorcycle analogies. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And here's one for you. I used to read bike mags a lot because I really wanted to get better at cornering. It's the one thing that's just awesome on a motorcycle. And I read this little article once, and this guy was talking about an instructor he knew. And he said, when you go down the corner, he was South African, you see. So
yeah.
Apologies for anyone listening in South Africa, but I want to put on a South African voice.
It's only 2, don't worry.
It's all right then. But when it came to corners, this guy said, when you go into a corner, you go in like a kitten, out like a lion. So what he meant was when you're going into a corner, you don't go mental.
Yeah.
You need to gauge what you're doing. Once you've gauged that and you can see the exit, that's when you wind it on and go for it. Now, let's use this in guitar playing terms because there's a lot of truth about it, especially when you're picking up something for the first time.
Yep.
And it's often where people, particularly young players, cock up, is that they try and make stuff more complex than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And in so doing, it's almost like they would rather play a complicated mess than something simple but really well played.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Now, I get this a lot when I'm taking GCSE students through some of their exam pieces.
Yeah, you can imagine.
Because, some of them they just bite off more than they can chew. Or sometimes you even, you suggest a song, you write it out for them and you realise you've given them too much. And actually they need to simplify things and you need to go, well, actually, I think maybe I overestimated the capabilities here and I need to peel it back. But when it comes to it, when you're trying to gauge a song, especially when playing with others, and Carlos was particularly talking, wasn't he, about jam sessions and open mics.
That's it, yeah.
Going easy, rolling your volume back a little bit, and sitting in the background is no shame.
It's a good thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, because it gives you space. Because also, what's the point in you listening to you? You know the chords that you've got to play.
Yeah.
You need to listen to others.
Yep.
How, where are these chords changing? How are they placed? What's the groove?
Yeah.
What's happening elsewhere? Now, when you know those things, you can choose to wind it up a little bit and crank up the volume and be more present in the mix. But it's that in like a kitten bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you see where
Just
I'm coming
play with
from?
it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're... So that's your little rhythm. Now, if you're supporting a band, there's no harm even if you want to listen. Someone's letting a chord ring. And then it gives you the space to really listen to what's going on. And your confidence levels can then build. So maybe next time round, you can add a little bit more volume, maybe a little bit more of a rhythmic. And once you've got it, then you can open it up a bit.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we're not talking about here is when you've poured over a song for months. You've rehearsed it with a band for goodness knows how long. What we're talking about here really is when you're given something in the spur of the moment and you need to create something from it.
Yeah.
By getting the measure and allowing yourself to gradually pick up the groove, you will get more confident and you will become more fluid in it because you're hearing what other people are doing as well.
Yeah.
And you're being able to pick up what's going on and follow it and respond. So also, if you're cranked up with your guitar in your ear roll, can you really hear where there's dynamics? Can you hear where a song's getting louder or quieter? It's less of an issue when you know it. When you're in a band and you play that song a million times, you know that the pre-chorus, it drops down a bit. The chorus gives it everything. The verse is quite quiet. When you know those things, you could choose to take a few more liberties.
It was interesting because at the weekend I was playing with a friend of mine and he normally plays acoustic and we normally jam acoustic. And when you play an acoustic, there is a dynamic thing, but it's slightly less, I think, because of the sustain on the notes and all that kind of thing. It's a slightly different beast. And so he was playing an acoustic, not really used to it, and playing it just the whole way through, very little dynamics.
All on 10, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was all along the Watchtower type thing. And I just sort of stopped him and said, for the verse, peel it right back, either turn the volume down or play it quietly. And it just sounded like 20 times better the next time we kicked in.
Well, even...
So much truth to it.
Even with songs that are quite full on.
Yeah.
They still have peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
Listen to a Metallica album.
Yeah.
And there are peaks and troughs. You take a song like The Unforgiven, that's quite clever because they decided to flip things around. Instead of having a kind of quiet verse and heavy chorus, they did it the other way around. So the verse was quite heavy and the chorus was quite light. And with something like that, there's lots of dynamics all over the place.
Yeah.
You find it in all kinds of things. You listen to even like a thrash album, like the awesome Megadeth Rust in Peace album. And there's still dynamics all over there. Dynamics everywhere. I mean, another one is the Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth. Although, again, it's a thrash album. Apart from the playing being amazing, it's still chock full of dynamics. Because in every form of music, we would tire of just full on.
Yeah.
And the few bands that do, I don't know if they're still going. There used to be a band called Napalm Death in the 80s, which are, I found them a little bit on the unlistenable side, but if that's your thing, fair enough.
Acid Rain as well. They were a bit like that.
Oh. And their songs were like 1 minute long, but they were full on. But can you imagine 5 minutes of that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just no reprise, you just know where to go. With most other music, I can't really think of anything which doesn't have some kind of dynamic, even be it another instrument come in and out. So, in terms of what helps us with the fluidity kind of thing, You talked about fretboard knowledge. So we have the knowledge of the chords. So let's take this one step further. What about if you're adding a little, maybe licks and flourishes in between these chords? How does that pan out for you?
Yeah, okay, so I've kind of avoided that in the going in like a kitten thing, I think.
Right, well, let's say now we've got a different scenario.
Yeah.
So we've looked at maybe if you're in a jam or you're playing a song which isn't familiar to you, peeling back the volume, allowing yourself to really hear what's going on. Because you've got to remember, for most of us, most of the time, if we're brutally honest, we're playing working man's clubs, bars, pubs. You know, we're often not mic'd up.
Yeah.
We often don't have the luxury of like amazing monitoring for anything but the vocals.
Yeah, yeah.
On the odd occasion we might get mic'd up. We're not going to take a massive, sort of 10k system to do like, the dog and duck down the high street or, complete with 4 sound men. It's not going to happen, Would you like it mic'd in stereo? I don't think it's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So in reality, most of us are dealing with the plug-in and play method.
Yeah.
Really. And so we have to monitor ourselves in a big way. And often our guitar amps may be quite in our face.
Yeah.
And so you're aiming for as good a stage balance as you can get in the hope that by the time it hits the audience, that means that balance is also quite nice.
Yeah.
And not completely off. So that's what we're sort of aiming for, and obviously kind of going out into the crowd and having a little listen doesn't hurt either.
Yep.
So let's look at a different scenario. We've looked at one scenario, and this is that was the scenario when you're presented with something at the spur of the moment, or you're picking up a song at a jam session. You've gone up, you've done a couple of numbers. No other guitarist wants to stay up there. Another vocalist comes up to sing a song and says, "Do you know such and such? It's only 4 chords." Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the best of it. Don't make a meal of it and make a mess of it. Just go in gentle.
Yeah.
Go in gentle. Gain your confidence. And as you do, your playing will become more fluid.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to gradually take a few risks with it. Rather than taking the risks from the off.
Okay.
That way you won't look like such a spanner if it goes pear-shaped.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, yeah.
It'll be somebody else's fault, not yours.
Yeah. Turn yourself right.
That's right. So let's look at, say, we've got to add some licks.
Yeah, okay.
So we're going to join these bad boys up with a few other things. So we're going to go in maybe the same pace, but this is where sort of...
A little bit of prep time. Yeah.
Possibly so. So I'm going to play through...
Scenario with a bit of prep time.
A couple of my ideas.
Shall I do something different or yeah?
Whatever you fancy. What I'm looking for is how fluid you are when you're moving from one thing to another. If you want to slow it down, that's fine, but we're looking at speed and fluidity, so we don't want to make it sort of too easy.
Okay, all right.
So it's like a snail's pace.
So I missed a few notes there, but... Yeah, okay.
Will you permit me to comment?
Yeah.
It seems sometimes you're a little on edge with it.
Yeah.
Now, all I'm trying to do here is not a character assassination.
I'm trying to look at the notes and think, where am I going? Taking it slow, basically, I think.
Okay. It seems to be, because I think a lot of people are probably suffering from these same problems.
Yeah.
When they try and kind of add a little bit of complication to things.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you've done something a few times, that really helps.
Yeah.
But let's look at maybe some of the remedies for the problem.
Yeah.
It seems to be sometimes you're sort of holding on to chords maybe quite tightly. Like you're a little bit worried that if you let it go, it's going to kind of go horribly wrong. So we're getting some sort of kind of crunchiness down on the bottom strings. Okay. Is that fair? Or?
Yeah, no, that's all fair. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So
awesome.
One thing with chords is really sort of knowing, like you said with your fretboard, knowing a few different options. Maybe, just maybe, the option that you had for your strumming, which works so well, maybe that works for what you're doing, but also it makes your licks quite spread out, which is fine if you're kind of like happy with that. But we're talking about also making things user-friendly. So you could move your A to the open position and literally put one finger across the D, G and B strings at the second fret. Don't worry about the top string. Which then puts your F sharp in much closer proximity. You could then go for an open B minor down on the second.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit happier down there, actually.
Which will then be close to that D.
Yeah, okay.
Now, you might find with the notes which are sort of around the A major and A major pentatonic. So, A major pentatonic, folks, from bottom E is 5th fret, then 2nd and 4th on the A, the D and the G, and 2nd and 5th on the top two.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of nice little licks if you wanted to add something to it right there.
Yep.
And I haven't really strayed from the 2nd and 4th frets to add my little licks.
Yeah, so then we've got this kind of... Oh, I missed a bit. Bit unfluid using those ones there at the top, using the 2 and the 5. It's a lot easier on the...
Yeah.
So stick with it.
So, exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
So what I'm advocating here really is if you want to make things fluid for yourself and you want to... With speed we'll deal with it as a separate issue in a second, I think. When you want to make things fluid and trip off the fingers, there's a few nice little tricks. Yeah. So, for example, if you are playing F sharp minor, pentatonic, if you start on the 2nd note of that first position, so not the 2nd fret on the E but the 5th, putting the A in the root, you get a perfect 2-octave A major pentatonic scale. Oh, you've gone up a different way there. So I'm starting here.
Just on there.
Now, the great thing about this is we've now got major and minor at our disposal very, very easily.
Yep.
So, if we're wanting to play something in a major key, but maybe we're just finding like the major scale's just a little bit too handsy at this stage.
Oh, the one I was just doing, yeah.
So your major...
2-5. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Your major pentatonic offers you all of the fun of the fair. All of the nice, easy licks which you're going to find in a minor pentatonic, but they're going to work over a major progression.
Yep.
So that's kind of handy. In terms of adding to fluidity, you've probably, if you've been playing the guitar for the last, 3 months, 6 months or more, your guitar teacher's probably shown you that scale, or you've found it on the internet or through friends. And you've probably used it for maybe a little bit of sort of harmless solo work and that sort of thing.
Noodling, folks.
Noodling, folks, yes. You know, it's under the fingers of many guitarists already without even thinking about it. So why let that go to waste and overcomplicate it? And also I advocate shifting the chords to a position that works for you. So if you like that sound that we had there, using the minor pentatonic, using the open A chord, the F sharp minor at the 2nd fret, B minor at the 2nd fret, and open D.
Play around there.
If you want things to sound really close together, now if you're doing like a picking pattern thing, notice when you were first doing your little extras, sort of a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
You know,
these ones up here.
It's sort of in different places for different chords.
Yeah.
Now that may work for you, and you may find that, great.
Yeah.
But if you want something that's fluid, you need to give your hands a chance.
Keep it simple for the challenging times. I mean, I guess
when
it's
no different from when you're playing fast licks and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if you take any old scale with any old number of notes on any old string and then try and play it fast, you know what you're going to get, don't you?
Yeah.
Complete car crash. Bum fight of the old oak tea rooms.
Yeah.
It's just going to sound awful.
Yeah.
Whereas if you organise your life a little bit and you get even numbers of notes and things on the strings, your picking hand has a hope in hell of actually being able to do something with that.
Yeah.
Because it's one
Get
movement.
into the groove, yeah.
One movement repeated. You know, when you got like pentatonic, blues scales, unless I'm going to use a load of hammer-ons and pull-offs like that, I'm not going to be able to pick every note. I'm not going to really be able to practice fast picking particularly easily with that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Whereas if I organised myself into 3 note per string groups of something that'll work,
you get some speed, yeah.
Yeah, because my picking hand has already learnt
symmetrical patterns,
Yeah. So it's about organisation. You know, people don't wake up one day and go, I'm going to play fast.
Yeah.
And just take all of the scales that they ever learnt and suddenly play them at breakneck speed. There requires usually a degree of organisation.
Yeah.
And also kind of going through things before time so you know what you're going to play.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are going to do a lick that's a little bit odd, you may have to put a hammer on or a pull-off in there or do something which kind of evens things up.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know, this stuff becomes more automatic over time. But here, with the chords, I'm advocating basically the same plan. Why give yourself complicated picking patterns when you want something to be fast, continuous and fluid, when you can keep everything on 3 strings?
Yeah.
So, say I want my little pattern, all I've done there is like the F shape.
Yeah.
Move from the 1st fret up to the 5th to give me an A. So... So I've gone 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And it's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up.
Down, down, up, down, down, up.
Down, up at the end.
Troy Grady type thing coming back.
Yeah. That's it.
That's good. I'm going to have to...
Up on the end.
Yeah.
Always an up on the end, so
Yeah, that.
you can swing across the string there without
Yeah.
getting caught. Now, if you want to change that to an F sharp minor, it's really easy. Now, this harks back to your suggestion of knowing your fretboard.
Yeah.
And this is where I would say really knowing the fretboard, knowing the notes in the chords, knowing your fretboard as inside out as you possibly can within reason for the stage you're at is a very good idea. We want to keep everything on. That's it. So we got now, instead of going 7, 6 and 5, we've got 7, 6 and 6. And then for our B minor, we're doing a slightly odd one. We're going to go 4, 7 and 7. So it misses out the B note, but it gives us the F sharp twice.
Yeah.
And it also gives us the minor third, which is the D.
Yeah, gotcha.
And finally for the D, very similar shape, 7, 7, 7.
Yep.
Now what this means is that if I'm playing any line...
That upstroke means that it rings a bit as well, doesn't it? Because you're damping.
Yeah, I guess you're moving your dampening around a bit.
That's quite cool.
So if we want to play then a line that's quite fast in a picky way like that...
Yeah, okay.
It's a lot easier because my picking hand only has to learn it once. It doesn't have to relearn for everything else.
I was doing something like this last night, actually. We Are Scientists, you know,
I've heard of them, yeah.
They got a tune that was like... I got a question about this, actually.
Oh, far away.
So this is the pattern. So it's triplets. The thumb is changing.
All right.
Is that a Travis picking idea?
Travis picking I'm not so familiar with.
Okay.
That's one for Wikipedia, folks. Sorry.
No, I'll have a look as well.
I shall have a look. So the other cool thing about this is, you know, if you wanted the chords to sound very kind of close together, almost like the Eric Johnson thing, having them on the same 3 strings, they're almost like piano voicings, you know, the kind of voicings you would get on the piano where you keep it close together rather than moving things around. It's a different kind of a sound if that's your thing, and it's quite a cool thing. It can work quite well over a track. So things to get from this, you know, simplify where you need to.
Yep.
Use scale patterns that you're familiar with, even if they're minor and major pentatonic, because they will be under your fingers already, hopefully.
Yep.
And put things, you know, in a neat order.
Yeah.
You know, like if I was doing the thing that you were doing before, where you're going from the A up to the F sharp, I'd have probably maybe not bothered with the full F sharp, possibly.
Passing chord there. Is that?
Right.
Minor.
That was cheeky. So it was a B minor, and then I passed through an A with a C sharp in the bass. So I went from the B minor on the 7th fret, A with the C sharp in the bass, 9 on the bottom string, 7 on the D, 9 on the E. You can, if you want, put an A on the 10th fret as well on the B string.
Like the D shape, if you like, yeah.
See, I really like that one.
Yeah, okay.
And that's one thing if you're struggling with the picking kind of thing, although you do want to work on it at home. Some parts benefit quite a lot from using your fingers.
I think a lot of it's right hand, isn't it? A lot of it is just being confident with your right hand sometimes. Knowing where the notes are, being confident with your right hand.
It definitely helps, but don't always feel, and this is another good learning point, like you've got to play the full chord.
Yeah.
Jazz guitarists don't.
Yeah.
They're frequently playing 3-note chords. So when I went to the F sharp minor, because it's a bit of a pig holding it down and trying to attack other notes, I've just got the 2 notes there. And even for the B minor, you can do almost like a 3-note version of that if you want 3 strings.
Right there.
Yeah. So when you're looking at your bar chords, folks, don't feel you've got to play every note. Sometimes that can overload a tune a little bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it can be far better to kind of skinny things down a little bit. And also it can make things easier for you.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of fretting things, if you're adding extra notes. And again, that's going to boost your confidence levels. If you're in a full band, if you're playing something on your own, you want those nice rich bass notes. But when you're with a full band, that's what the gorilla in the corner with a big guitar's for. Older basses, sorry. That's what bass players are for. Is to provide you with that low end.
Notes,
and, you don't necessarily need to give yourself all the frequencies that he's got.
Yeah.
You can stay higher up and still deliver great effect to the song. And
probably won't really hear them anyway because of the mix. Some of those basses.
Sometimes you hear the bass notes, but they're not always necessary, and sometimes can actually kind of get in the way of other things.
Yeah.
There's a few things in this life you want to stay out of the way from.
Bass players,
drummers. No, they're all good, of course. I'm not biased, honest. But you want to kind of stay out of the way of vocals.
Yeah. Because
you are both taking kind of that mid-range frequency band, so you want to make sure that what you're playing isn't clashing with the vocalist. Just because it's in the same key doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work. Also, when the other guitar player, if there is another guitar player, is taking a solo, that's his turn in the spotlight.
Peel it back. Yeah.
Peel it back, brother. Peel it back. Right. Shall we do some exciting stuff
instead
of all this mamby-pamby clean nonsense?
Really enjoyed this, though. It's really been helpful, so I'm glad.
I hope so.
Carlos has given us a good idea here.
He has.
Well, thanks, Carlos. Yeah.
So you've given you a fair dollop a game there, sir.
Yep. There we go.
How loud are we?
I can hear it.
So what we'll do now,
some gain there.
We're going to try jamming a little bit over a jazz fusion track.
Okay.
And can give you some pointers if you need them.
Yeah, okay.
Want me to start or do you want to start?
Just trying to work out the chords. So A minor, G. Hey.
Okay, it's a bit of a chance
awesome.
to blast.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, bit of fun, having a bit of a blast over tunes.
Yeah.
Funny timing bit in the middle.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never heard this backing track before, so I mean...
It's not a bad track, though. It's pretty good.
It's pretty cool. There are a whole range of groovy tracks.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to fluidity, where do you think you were falling down there? Where were you all good?
I think it was kind of getting my eye in, really.
Okay.
I felt like, and maybe that's the thing, isn't it? That Carlos and I are thinking about. You know, it takes you so long to kind of get your eye in that the tune's over by the time you've done it almost. So then you end up with you're then kind of going, oh yeah, so it's that shape there, and then you're in the right kind of place, and then you're starting to think about a few of the notes, but they're coming out slowly at you, and it's just a constant familiarization.
Okay, so I'm going to hit you with a bit of a raw fact.
Yep.
Which is undeniable, really. Now, something I hear from people, usually the uninitiated, a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't be bothered to argue with them. Life's too short.
Yeah.
But these people who, they like a particular player, it could be Eric Clapton, it could be Slash, it could be Joe Bonamassa, it could be Stevie Ray Vaughan. All great players, without a doubt. Pick your favourite. But they're so into that player. Like I used to work with a security guard who was so into Joe Bonamassa, it just turned me off to Joe Bonamassa, unfortunately, but he's actually a very good player. But he used to say it, very irritating, I bet he could play anything on guitar.
Yeah.
Now,
not quite true, is it?
It's
really?
not.
Yeah.
Because we've all got our own feel, we've all got our own sort of way of doing things. He's certainly a very good sort of blues rock player, but I would argue that Gary Moore was more ferocious.
Yeah.
And especially in things like although Joe Bonamassa's picking technique is very, very good.
But he'd struggle to play Gary Moore style stuff, wouldn't he?
I think some of it could present him with the challenge, yes.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get some of John Petrucci's stuff where we have some really nasty stretches, Guthrie as well.
Yeah.
You know, some people just anatomically ain't cut out for that.
Yeah.
There's a very funny Stevie T video, actually, where he talks about guitar licks with stretches. Have a look. It's quite amusing. I'll show you it later. So, you know, there's some things that some people do that others would struggle to do. You could get a guy who's like real speed metal, shredder and great at all that technique, might not have the feel for a Stevie Ray Vaughan track.
Yeah.
You know, I've spoken to a lot of rock guitarists, and they who think sort of Nile Rodgers is, that guy obviously can't play very well. He can play a little bit of rhythm. It's like, right, you get up there and you do a 3-hour show and you keep things grooving and moving. Every type of guitar playing has its difficulty level.
Yeah.
I'm probably not particularly great at the modern metal stuff. I'm great at old school metal and hard rock and blues and stuff and the jazz fusion thing. But sort of the new school metal, I'd have to get into it.
Yeah.
And want to play like it and want to get into all that drop tuning stuff, probably to be good at it. It took me quite a while to come around to getting into the country stuff. You're only as good as what you kind of put in the first place. So, if you're not listening to any country, you're not going to be a great country player, are you? Probably if you're not listening to it, absorbing it, trying out the licks.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm really coming down to, because I know it sounds like a convoluted story, but what I'm getting at is whatever you're good at the time, you need to make what you can do sound as good as possible. Now, often people don't hone what they've got already. Do you sit there trying to come up with licks?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So can you play me a lick that you've come up with?
So,
Let's hear it, Gary. Let's have it. Both rock and roll barrels, mate.
Well, yes, maybe. It's this kind of...
Brain has magically emptied of all the notes he was supposed to remember. How does mine stay full?
I don't know what's mine and what isn't at the moment. I can't think.
Or play us a blues lick or a lick that you would use or you used over that track that you're quite happy with.
Okay. So this kind of like space between the things.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Add something to it. So that kind of...
So what you could do there, for instance, to make it better and to add something to it, and this is sometimes where
going a bit longer, maybe.
Where we fall down is making it more precise.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
More precise. Rhythmically, it's a little bit. It's there. It's a little or I want to hear every pull-off.
Yeah. Make it.
Now, sometimes when people refer to fluidity,
yes,
and more so maybe in this case speed, I think part of their problem, forgive me if I'm wrong, but part of the problem is it's not they can't play at a certain pace. We're not talking shred here. We're just talking like maybe a lick like that.
Yeah.
But when they speed things up,
or when tripping over.
Yeah. When the drummers had one Jack Daniels too many, I'll start at this speed. That's 20 beats a minute faster than it was last Friday. you know, we do a version of Comfortably Numb and we have our kind of harmony guitar solo bit at the end. And sometimes when that kicks in, on the odd occasion it's been my fault, but I've learned from my mistakes. But sometimes if our drummer Johnny is on one, he clicks it in at a fair crack. It's already supposed to be 150 beats a minute. This is nasty string skipped arpeggios and tapping all played in harmony. And if he kicks it in kind of fast, it's a little bit, whoa, hold on to your knickers, boys. We're
in trouble. Might be easy for you to do, but...
And luckily, because we've played it so many times, we know the pitfalls and we can roll with it. But you can't guarantee, because you can play this lick at X pace, that when you go out and play it with a live band, that they're going to always play it at the same pace and you're going to be able to pull it off. So ideally, you want to be playing at something that's not the ceiling of your technique all the time, but when you've got a little bit in reserve.
Yeah.
You know.
Like head space on the amp, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. Do you want to be maxing it out?
Yeah.
If it's running 6L6 tubes, probably not.
Yes. Yeah, gotcha. Definitely. No.
EL34s, it's fine. So getting
41-year-old fingers.
45-year-old fingers, haven't you? That? So you...
Yeah.
So that's one little lick where you could... Yeah, see, that sounds better already to my ears.
So you get...
Right, okay, let's take that.
Isn't it? That's actually out of key.
It is.
Because I did that during the thing as well, because it should be here.
But let's go with the lick. It's your lick. You obviously use that over the blues more.
Yes. Kind of a slashism.
Okay. Or the...
Yeah.
And you probably replace that in a different... When we get a lick, rather than go, that's my lick, try and make it as good as you can possibly make it. Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example, didn't really play loads of notes,
this
right?
This is a good little nugget. I like it, yeah.
You like it?
Yeah, I need to sit down and do some of this, yeah.
There's much more of that in this old dusty brain.
I know.
I've had a long time to think about guitar playing. It's been a massive...
When you think
thing
about
in
the
my
amount
life.
of time I've been picking your brain for as well.
And there's still some great matter
left.
There's
still loads left, yeah.
Wiki.
That is spot on.
Think of all the hundreds of people who've picked my brains over the years.
Yeah, it's quite
And
quite
poor
terrifying.
Chris. Poor Chris Green has had his brain picked by many a pupil, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I was watching... Chris, if you're out there, I was watching your video on sweeping the other day. Very nice. Very good. Very clean. Very clean. I can't sweep as clean as that.
That e-music workshop thing, isn't it?
I think so,
With
yeah.
Rick Beatty, yeah.
But yeah,
Very good.
sweep picking, man. The boy's a master.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible. I can sweep it. It forced me to work on it harder. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Anyway,
good.
where were we? We digress. So it's about taking what you know and sharpening it up. Now, I'll give the Stevie Ray Vaughan example because he was such a loved modern blues player and he could play things that are reasonably swift, but it's a different kind of speed, isn't it? As we've said before, to like, the shredding thing.
Yeah.
And that's cool because that works in a lot of different places, probably more places than shredding the hell out of the guitar does. But he had his thing and he honed it down. So whether he's playing one note or 20, it sounds great.
Yeah. That's
his thing. So having your blues licks down so they sound as good as they can at numerous different tempos.
Yeah.
But have things so they sound great. Like you did a little lick with him. So slid up to the second position.
I don't remember doing that one, but yeah.
Okay. Do you or whatever you did?
I've got no idea what I
You need
did.
some volume there, mate.
I'm trying to work it out.
Right, there.
Yeah, okay.
Right, okay, so you could sharpen up, for example, those pull-ups. See what I mean? And you get a lot of like
dancing around some of the major notes as well.
That sort of thing. You bend there. Yeah.
And that needs to somehow. I mean, I guess I'm doing a staccato thing there to make that like pop out.
That's much better. Do you see how the lick now has form?
Yes, yeah.
Before it's a little bit like, okay, lasagna, sorry.
Yeah. yeah.
I'm really hungry. It's meal analogies.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever made a meal like lasagna? And like it sits on the side, and you're really hungry, and you're sitting there with like the frying slice.
In no time.
And you think, I've got to get a slice of this out, and the first one's just a complete abortion, isn't it? And you kind of take the first slice out, and it just kind of goes on the plate. Tastes the same, but just kind of goes on the plate. Like
what went wrong there then?
Like next door's dog's been fed your curry you had last night, and it's just yacked all over your plate.
Eat it back up again. Oh no!
I didn't barge with that.
It's already gone. That's an image and a half. A few hundred people will be
walkies.
Getting. You've got a madras coming your way later, haven't you?
King prawn. Oh dear. Oh, okay.
Try and eat that without thinking. Brilliant.
So, but the second slice is kind of like, it stood for a bit. It's a whole damn sight more kind of appealing to look at than the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has got its body form.
Maybe a bit of garnish, Yeah.
Woo, body form. Anyway, that's the one. Why did the 80s? Was it the 80s or the 90s? It was the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Whoa, body form for you.
Yeah,
Why?
You can't.
Why?
You can't listen to that tune anymore without thinking of the dodgy advert. Can you really?
Apparently, you can go sailing or skiing.
Yes. Yeah. You do whatever.
Scuba diving. You can be an astronaut.
Just get those liners. Yeah.
Brilliant. Love all that. Anyway.
What were the calls for that?
Oh, yeah. It's GC. Oh. So what I'm advocating here in terms of sort of helping the confidence levels.
Yeah.
Really, and helping your playing sound more polished, more professional.
Yeah.
Is that you take the stuff you know and you use your practice time to kind of get out there and really sort of play the hell out of the thing and work out some new stuff, and you learn by your mistakes. But take the stuff you can already do, polish it, make it rhythmically sound tighter and better.
By transcribing it, maybe?
I
Possibly?
think it's how you play it.
Yeah.
You know, you can play a blues like this. Believe me, I've heard people do it.
Yeah.
In all seriousness. Or you can play it so that there's emphasis.
It's essentially the same notes, isn't it, you know?
Pretty much, but it's how you do it. It's that rhythmically tight thing and the emphasis in the right place. So it's got a bit of meaning. So instead of kind of bimbling through, oh, bimble, bimble, which just doesn't really sound like anything.
Yep.
You know, that's wrong, gone wrong.
Yeah.
You want it, have it so you.
Yes,
Jack Dill went up the hill to fetch a pail of chocolate. No, that wasn't. Hang on a minute.
Yes, that's a good analogy.
Rock-a-bye baby on the brush top. You want it so it's rhythmic, you know, so it's got a bit more meaning to it, you know? So I'm going to say, Carlos, thank you so much for giving us a hilarious hour.
Yeah,
actually,
thanks.
It's been
Thanks very
funny
much.
as.
Yeah.
But however, thank you for giving us a really great topic to look at, and I hope we've helped you and many other people out there with the chord thing and the lead thing. And as you see, it's not about the shredding so much. It's about that speed in terms of having confidence in your own playing. So you are going from one lick to another precisely, and when the speed gets turned up, your playing doesn't fall down like a house of cards.
Right, yeah.
You know, so that it maintains that rhythmic integrity.
Yeah.
And when you are looking for faster lines, certainly you can do that by organising yourself, just as I advocated with the rhythm stuff.
Yeah.
So organise your notes on strings. Obviously, it may not be such a challenge to have even numbers of notes on strings, but when you're wanting to play faster lines with ease, whether it's legato or you're picking every note, it's going to make life a little bit easier. So take something like a major scale and sequence it. So maybe you're looking at the string impaired. All of a sudden you've got
3 notes per string, yeah.
Yeah, and we're just putting everything impaired.
Cool.
It's a whole bunch easier. If you just take all the stuff you know and try and play it fast, it's not going to sound good. It's just not.
Yeah.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Do you want a quick jam before we finish?
Yeah, cool. Maybe we should summarise as well. Because that was good, I think.
Okay.
So in summary, we were looking at rhythm and playing a set of chords. Play them somewhere where you feel confident on the neck and where you've got the scale, the minor pentatonic or the major pentatonic scale under your fingers so that you can play the fills around it.
Making it easier for you, so you're putting things on, say, 3 strings, such as your chord patterns. If you've got to pick an awkward pattern or something like that, so you're not crossing over strings. Make life easy for yourself to start with. Going in gently, if you're playing maybe a new song with a band in rehearsal or at an open mic night, go in gently, a little bit quiet, listen to what's going on, gradually gain your confidence. As you gain your confidence, you can turn your guitar up a little bit so you're more present in the mix. You know, you don't really want all of your mistakes to be heard all over the place, but you do want to pick up on what's going on. You'll gain confidence, your playing will become more fluid. Often things snowball. When I was 17 and I had my first few driving lessons, my instructor said, you let things snowball. When you make a mistake, you're thinking about your last mistake, and while you're thinking about it, you make another one.
Oh, yeah.
And we all do it. We're all human. We're all fallible. And that's what happens to us until we gain the confidence to deal with it. I drive a car now, I don't think about it. And I don't make too many mistakes.
Yeah.
And the same is true with guitar playing. If we're thinking about the last cock-up we've made, you can't change that. That note's out in the open. It's been and gone. So we need to try and get on our horse and ride. Yeah. You know, some people even say, you can tell a musician who's decent because they can kind of rescue themselves from things when they start to go pear-shaped.
Yeah.
Things gone wrong, they can salvage it.
Have a trick bag and work out those licks.
That was the other thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The licks, to give your lick some form. Don't let your lick be a splodge. And work on what you're good at as well as what you're bad at. Because you can work on licks you already know and you can hone them down and make them sound really great.
Yeah.
Gary Moore, the man himself, the late great, said you're going to make one note sound great. He said if you can make one note sound great, you can make loads of notes sound great. If you're making one note sound rubbish, don't expect the rest of them to suddenly sound great because you're playing them at twice the speed. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much, Dan. Brilliant.
No worries. Shall we have a quick jam?
Yeah, sounds
Let's do it. Then it's curry time.
Yeah, baby. It's a bit funny how chords go some places, isn't it? You're sort of thinking you're getting to the end of a thing. Thank you.
That's all right.
Stay tuned for more episodes, jams, improvisation ideas and well-informed thoughts about amps, pedals and guitar tone. If you enjoy this podcast, leave us a review on iTunes, find us on SoundCloud or see our website on tunein-toneup.com. Here you'll find show notes, tabs and further research and resources. It's also a good place to get in touch. We hope you're finding these lessons as interesting and as useful as I do, and if you have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them.